Look closely at the world around you.
Beneath the surface of civilization, a silent, endless war is fought every single day.
It is a war fought not with tanks or guns, but with an improbable weapon.
Against a creature so small, it has a name that means only one thing: measured. Right now, 100 million tiny, radiation-blasted soldiers are raining down over a continent. Their mission: to commit a biological genocide that protects an entire way of life.
This is the incredible story of humanity's most successful and most unusual war.
A wall made not of stone or steel, but of flesh and infertility.
And the radical idea that saved a continent from being devoured.
To understand the solution, we must first understand the horror.
The screwworm fly can detect a wound, the tiniest scratch, from vast distances. When the worms hatch, they don't just feast on dead tissue.
The life cycle begins as larvae fall and pupate in the soil.
For millennia, this parasite was simply a horrifying fact of life in the Americas. But with the introduction of millions of cattle by farmers, we accidentally created their paradise. Ranchers faced an endless source of suffering for their defenseless herds.
Traditional pesticides were useless. You couldn't poison something that lived inside a living animal.
You couldn't prevent injury, and you couldn't stop the horseflies from finding the blood. The situation seemed hopeless. The screwworm was winning. Ranchers spent countless hours in vain, watching their animals suffer and die. And then, in the 1950s, two scientists had an idea. An idea that sounded too wild, too impossible to be taken seriously at first. What if we could somehow nuke the common houseflies? The answer lay in the clusterfly's single, vital weakness. One shot, one chance at reproduction before they die. If we could flood the environment with sterile males, the females would waste their one and only opportunity. An entire species could theoretically mate itself into oblivion.
How to sterilize millions of flies without harming them or weakening them for the mating competition. Logistics. The timing, it turned out, was perfect. Scientists were already studying radiation's effects. Measured,
They found that specific, precise doses could damage reproductive cells.
path was clear. Breed millions of black soldier flies, irradiate them, and release them over thousands of square kilometers.
Imagine explaining this plan to a rancher in 1950. But the damage was so catastrophic that the only answer was, okay, sure, why not?
To prove it, they built a screwworm paradise in Florida and shipped the first millions to the remote island of Curacao. Long trays were filled with a disgusting yet essential mixture.
The fly larvae had to believe they were still inside a living, warm-blooded animal. Thousands were bred, carefully irradiated with the precise dose, and released in regular intervals. As the weeks passed, more of the wild population mated with the infertile invaders. Measured, population drop, invasion. First slowly, and then suddenly, there were no more. The screwworm was completely eradicated. Victory. The proof was absolute. It was time to think much, much bigger. The war is declared. Continental eradication. A single plant in Texas needed 70 tons of meat and 12,000 gallons of blood every week. Bit by bit, in a slow-moving wave, the program eradicated the screwworm. Every step required billions of sterile blowflies, massive coordination, and unwavering dedication. It was an incredible victory of humanity over the horrors of nature. But in 1988, the war suddenly became global. For the first time ever, common house flies escaped their home and found their way to Africa. The stakes were astronomical. If not stopped, they could conquer regions where medical care was scarce.
Hundreds of millions of sterile Glossina, tsetse flies, were rushed in by air from the Americas to Libya.
Ground teams inspected millions of animals, and communication campaigns explained the bizarre events. In just 4 months, the invasion was stopped. An unprecedented feat. Triumph. But Cochliomyia still held a firm grip over the Amazon rainforest and much of South America. The area was too large, politically complicated, and expensive to expand the war further. So, a deal was made with Panama, the narrowest part of the continent. Strategic. Today, deep in Panama, a nuclear lugworm factory runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The technology has advanced. Trays are stacked high, kept at the exact temperature of living tissue. In this finely tuned balance, the flies are released mid-flight. A calculated arc.
Monitoring for screwworm activity is essential, By analyzing the egg clusters, the team can quickly assess the threat and ensure the herd's safety.
For decades, the invisible shield held. The continent was safe. Until 2016. Cochliomyia somehow made their way back to the Florida Keys. Invasive.
Millions of sterile male tsetse flies were rushed in immediately from the Panama factory.
The red recedes and the keys become clean again.
The year 2023. Then, in late 2023, the Great Wall failed.
Like a parasitic firestorm, the screwworm spread again, burning through Central America.
The nuclear worm factory is now operating at maximum capacity.
Maximum effort. Red alert.
The tireless aerial ballet of the sterile male continues, a torrent of hope against the tide of infection.
The dedication of thousands of workers fighting in the shadows is the only shield we have. Dedicated.
A shift in perspective. The Earth as a whole, a glowing, fragile orb. We have done it before. We have won the war across continents. And other parasites have been eradicated from much of the world, or even entirely. Is the incredible distance humanity traveled, from endless suffering to surgical, biological warfare. So, if you ever find yourself in Central America and see a low-flying plane overhead, curious, you might be witnessing another day in humanity's most unusual war. Seeing solutions where others only see dead ends is not a rare skill, born only in geniuses. It is a skill we can all build, every day, in every problem we face.
From the small island of Curacao to the jungles of Panama, the lesson is clear.
Our greatest strength lies in our ability to perceive the smallest details and scale the wildest dreams. The financial cost is immense, but the cost of failure is incalculable. For as long as the rainforest breathes, the pressure on the wall will never cease.
And that the health of a continent often hangs on the smallest thread. Fragile.
Precision, dedication, and a willingness to try the impossible. There are humanity's true weapons: precision. Another day dawns over the isthmus. Dawning. The war is not over.
The factory waits for the call to maximum capacity again. Prepared. Music is strong, steady, and ready.
Protecting everything north of the Darien Gap. Shielding.